All right, I think it's a good moment to start. 2 minutes past 11. We have 112 people on the call, so I think we can kick it off. Some people are still joining, but they will not miss a lot from the start. All right, let's kick it off. Thanks everyone for joining. Thank you for joining this important cybersecurity webinar. My name is Sydney, and I'm the market team manager for the Netherlands at Booking.com, where I'm commercially responsible for our Dutch accommodation partners. Together with my colleague Calvin Bakker, account executive at Booking.com, I'll be moderating this session today. We've organized this webinar in collaboration with Koninklijke Horeca Nederland, Regio Amsterdam, and with Platform Veilig Ondernemen to shed light on increasingly pressing topic of cybercrime. Our sector, and especially the hospitality industry, is facing a growing number of cyber threats, with phishing and other forms of cybercrime becoming more common. Today, in this webinar, our goal is to inform you about the steps you can take to minimize the cybersecurity risks and to share what we at Booking.com are doing to help protect our partners' data and security. Representing Booking.com, Laura Torrente and Francesco Pireda from our security team will update you on the current cybercrime situation and explain you measures you can implement to safeguard your property and how to report incidents in the event of a hack. Additionally, Erik de Jong from Platform Veilig Ondernemen will provide background on cybercrime within the hospitality industry and highlight why multi-factor authentication is essential for your protection. With nearly 30 years of experience in this field, Erik brings a wealth of expertise, and so we're in very capable hands, I think. Just some practical information. The webinar will last approximately 60 minutes. Booking.com will start with about 20 minutes of presenting, followed by Erik de Jong, who will speak for about 15 minutes. We've also reserved 20 minutes at the end for the Q&A session to answer as many questions as you have as possible. You can submit the questions throughout the webinar on the bottom of your screen. You can see the Q&A tab. Please ask as many questions as you can and have. Thank you again for your time and participation, and we look forward to work together on how we can strengthen our digital security. Francesco and Laura, the floor is yours.
Can you see our screen? Perfect. So thank you everyone for being here today. We're very happy to have this space and time to present to you how is the security landscape at Booking.com and what are we doing to work together towards a more secure platform. My name is Laura. I work in account security team together with Francesco. He will do his presentation now. I work at Booking already for almost 10 years and in security for 6 and a bit more. And our team scope is to take care of partner and guest accounts, safety, so make sure that your accounts are safe as possible so you can focus in growing your business. Francesco.
Nice to meet you all. Thank you, Laura. I'm also an account security analyst, been in the team for roughly the same amount of time as Laura. And I'm very happy to be here with you today. So I think we can already talk about our agenda for the day. We're going to start talking a little bit about the current cybersecurity situation, not just on Booking.com, but in general. We will define how account takeover happens. We will check exactly the steps that are taken during an account takeover from the attackers. We will also discuss a little bit how to prevent these attacks, and finally, how to respond also to these attacks in the unfortunate event when they happen. So, in general terms, we have seen an increase in cybersecurity threats in the last period, with attacks that are becoming increasingly more sophisticated. It's really key that we remain vigilant at all times, both us as Booking.com, but also you as our partners. You can see we have noticed that statistics from last year, Q4, there's a cybersecurity attack every 39 seconds. I think it's an impressive stat. There has been an increase in cyber attacks by 75% over the last 5 years. Very interesting number also, that one. 95% of the data breaches are due to a human error. So we always need to remember that, let's say, the chain is as strong as the weakest link. And unfortunately, it pains me to say that the weakest link is humans at this point. Yes, technology also plays a role, but the human is always the easier, let's say, the easier weak point to target during an attack. And you can imagine that with artificial intelligence, this will only get worse. Easy example, if you check how video creation from artificial intelligence has evolved, it's starting to become quite hard to distinguish what is real from what is not real. So this is just to make an example as to why the humans are the weakest link, unfortunately. And 43% of small to medium-sized businesses do not have cybersecurity plan in place. This is a very sad stat, I would say, to know about.
Good. Thank you, Francesco. So that said, we put together a simplified APM of the attacks that we have observed at Booking.com. We know that at the moment, the most common threat vector is phishing, but because we need to stay vigilant and also understand that attacks can happen in different ways, we put together all of the different threat vectors that we identified. So you can also understand other type of threats that can be affecting us in the future or actually affect us in the past. So how the attack starts is with the threat vector. We have different ones that we observe over the past years. Phishing, for example, is the one that we have right now at the moment that is more common. So basically, it's a cyber attack that tricks people into revealing confidential information. We have a lot of phishing emails going to emails of the partner, where they're asking them to log into a phishing domain and provide credentials and 2FA PIN. We have an example in the next slide as well. Then we have malware. It's a malicious software designed to infiltrate or damage computer systems without the user consent. We had at the beginning of 2023 a lot of malware cases. It's not the case anymore. We don't see it that much, but we, of course, cannot guarantee that it will not happen in the future. Then we have social engineering. So it's a technique used by cybercriminals to manipulate people and obtain confidential information or unauthorized access to computer systems. For example, someone contacts your property and asks to get access to the extranet because they work in Booking.com security team and they need to make an update in your extranet. This is one example. Other examples that we have over the past, attackers were contacting partners, requesting them to download a TeamViewer to get access to their computers so they can make updates, security updates, or create a new accounts. They were using different excuses. And then we have credential stuffing. Credential stuffing is a technique used to attempt access to online accounts by automatically using previously obtained user credentials in an authorized manner. So basically, how this attack works is that attackers can buy leaked credentials and try them in different platforms. If you're using the same password as you used previously in the other leaks, then they are able to access. In the case of partners, they also need to obtain 2FA, but of course they can obtain it in other ways. This is not that common, but it's a possibility as well. Then once the attacker gets access to the credentials, there are different things that happen. The first option that we have is system compromise or external account takeover, and then we have account takeover. Once the attackers access the extranet, there are different actions that they can take that can give you a red flag of what happened. For example, they are modifying contact details, modifying calendar and pricing, availability. They're creating new accounts. They're switching connectivity providers to other providers that they have access with a trial account, or even they pay an account to it. They can also what was the name? The visibility booster. So they can activate visibility booster as well to get more visibility and more accounts and more reservations. And in the end, the motivation is to gain access to guest data, PII, PCI, so credit card details or guest data, or send messages via WhatsApp, email, or extranet to guests asking for credit card details if they cannot access using our extranet. Here we have some examples of how attackers are getting the credentials of the partners. In the phone, we have a fake reservation asking the partner to move to WhatsApp because they have to send a recommendation letter or some medical files. Once the partner click in the file, the malware spread through their system. They normally do that outside of our messaging platform because we're blocking a lot of messages and links. So it's easier for them to move outside of our platform. In the tablet, we have a phishing. This is a sample of a phishing email that was sent to a partner. These are real cases from past incidents. The partner is asked to review a complaint. As you can see, they always play with a sense of urgency. And once the partner click and review the complaint, it's being redirected to a phishing website where the credentials and 2FA PIN is requested. So we have here some red flags of partner systems compromise. There are way more, but we put the most common ones. For example, you get suspicious requests from direct contact sent to you or guest chat of messaging. Email or chat sent directly to you, posting at Booking.com and requesting urgent actions to be taken. Often the booking are coming with no prepayment needed policy and calls from someone impersonating Booking.com and requesting access to your extranet account or Pulse app. In this case, always remember that we will never ask you to do anything urgent without informing your account manager or sending previous communication. So this is also a red flag if someone is contacting you that you never had access and contact with this person before requesting to do any kind of action.
So what about preventing this malicious activity? Well, there are a few ways that can be implemented to do so. So the main one, and that's also why we have put it at the top, is that it's paramount to have an antivirus software that is kept up to date from time to time, so that this antivirus software can do its job and capture any malicious software, the malware Laura mentioned earlier, but it can also, with the capabilities that these softwares have today, also detect a phishing message, for example, so that we stop the attack path map even before it gets to the compromise. We really, let's say, cut the legs of the attacker by identifying a phishing email immediately. We also provide educational material on the Partner Hub that you can rely on. We explain what phishing really is, how to recognize it, among many other interesting data points. We also recommend that you only download and install apps from trusted sources. So I wouldn't go to, say, non-mainstream websites to download certain type of apps. Always use strong passwords or passphrases, and do not reuse the same password or share passphrases with anyone. So do not share it. And also don't, let's say, recycle the same password over and over across also multiple websites. Because if there is a data breach somewhere and you have used the same username and password everywhere, then the attackers are, yes, coming into possession of the password and the username for that specific service, but also for the other services where you use the same one. The attackers know this and leverage this to their advantage. So always remember to use unique passwords. Of course, set up two-factor authentication, which in Booking we usually remember at all times, but it would be good if you could also activate this on your external services, in particular your email address inbox, because that can also be leveraged by attackers to perform malicious activity in a more indirect manner, but it can be leveraged for it. Create individual extranet accounts. if you can, I know it's a lot to ask, but if you can avoid having a single account used by 5-10 different people, because these accounts are weaker compared to individual accounts, and if just one of these employees falls for a phishing email, then the entire account is compromised, and it's much harder to fix the situation. Of course, we can work on it and we will fix it, but it's a security risk. Of course, also try to avoid coming out of the Booking.com platform when you are messaging with our guests, because as Laura pointed out, the attackers can create fake bookings and leverage these bookings to get you out of the platform where they know we do not have any controls. So it's easier for them to carry out their malicious activity, while on our platform, we may be able to capture that malicious activity in time and prevent any bad things from happening. And finally, of course, you need to be very careful with the messages and phone calls that you receive. You need to pay attention to details, because the devil's in the details as usual, from about spelling mistakes, bad grammar, suspicious phrasing of the sentences. These are things that you need to really be on the lookout for in terms of malicious activity, because this could be a red flag. And a few initiatives that we have been taking also from the Booking.com side, because of course this is a, let's say, a collaborative effort. There are things that you can do, which I just mentioned, and other things that we are doing to fix the situation. So we would recommend, for example, to leverage some of the tooling that we are providing to you, which is, for example, the allow list. You can restrict who can edit the messaging templates, for example. Then we have the URL and email allow list, where you can decide what messages are authorized from your account and what messages should not be authorized in terms of email sender, but also the content of the message. In terms of URLs, when I mentioned the content of the message. You can also, we have a list of domains that we decided that are not allowed to send messages on our platform because we noticed they were up to no good, so we stopped them. And we also have phishing detection at work, which is constantly improved upon, because these attackers unfortunately evolve constantly. So we are also, we need to keep up the pace with the attackers and evolve our detection accordingly. Finally, we are also strengthening account security for Extranet and Pulse Up. One of the main initiatives that we have had in the last 1 year, or even a bit more, is risk-based authentication. So we decide to dynamically challenge the users when we see there is a suspicious activity. And we prefer not to challenge the users that are actually, that in our eyes look perfectly fine. So sometimes I remember receiving some questions from partners saying, hey, how come you never challenge me with a two-factor authentication? And they were very worried about this, but I wouldn't see it as something worrisome, because I actually would see that as something that we implement by default. Again, we do not want to challenge legitimate users. We want to challenge suspicious users and malicious users. So if a legitimate user does not receive any two-factor authentication challenge, that is perfectly fine, and that's what we are aiming for. Then we also have account activity management. We try to lock, so to enforce a password reset on accounts that have been inactive for 6 months. And after 24 months, if we see no activity in those accounts, we also disable them, because again, they pose a security risk. And finally, we also have enhanced device monitoring. And we tried so to implement security controls to block some devices that seem to be involved in malicious activity. Leaving the word now to Laura.
Thank you, Fra. So now we move to responding. And what are some partner practices that you can do to respond to suspicious activity? Of course, the first one is always report any suspicious activity immediately. We have report.booking.com, that is our online web form. You can also contact your account manager or customer service if you need to report anything to us. Then run antivirus and anti-malware program on your computer or network regularly. Please make sure that you always update it and you have the most updated version. Clear the cookies in your browser you use to access your Extranet account. Reset the password on your email account. This one I will also extend it not only to email account, but also to any kind of platform that you use. For example, connectivity providers, PMS, Booking.com account, of course, and your email. Review any changes in your account, such as contact details, financial details, rates and availability, templates, pictures, everything that you can. Please review it. Let us know if you need any help reverting any changes. But it's very important to review everything after you have a security incident. And this is our last slide. So we are committed to keeping you informed about our continuous and new security initiatives. Then thank you so much.
Thank you, Laura and Francesco. Thanks very much. We see a couple of questions coming in the chat, so we will answer those along as we go. But maybe first, Erik, if you would like to start your part, then we do the questions in the end where we have the Q&A. So please keep adding your questions in the Q&A tab. Please don't use the chat function, but just the Q&A function. Thanks. Erik, take it away.
Yeah, thank you, Sydney, and welcome all. So let me just go and choose my window to share. You should all see my screen now. Can't see you. Welcome all. So yeah, my name is Erik de Jong. My day job is Chief Research Officer at Tesorion, which is a Dutch security provider. And also I'm an independent consultant, and I work with Platform Veilig Ondernemen quite regularly, actually. So thanks to Platform Veilig Ondernemen Amsterdam for inviting me to talk to you for this 15 minutes. And I'll keep a mindful eye on the clock, actually. So make a screenshot here if you want to get in touch with me later on, because I won't repeat my contact details, or reach out to me on LinkedIn. So yeah, security. I've been in there for 30 years, and a lot of things have happened. So one of the things that so also you as an audience, partners of Booking, are a varied bunch, right? We have smaller organizations, maybe smaller bed and breakfast, and there's larger hotel chains. You could. I don't know what kind of organization behind you. So I've tried to find the common denominator, the things that I could talk to you about, and I chose to align myself with the story of Booking as well, to focus on what you can do personally. So the tips I'm going to give you are also valid in your personal life, so to speak. But especially if you're a larger organization, of course, security is as much about your personal behavior as it is also about technical details. So I'm going to give you some pointers at the end, because I won't go into a lot of technical details or things that you should talk to your IT provider about. So why a picture of a shopping street in Rotterdam in this case, if you have recognized it, is that you've got to understand that doing business on the internet or having a presence on the internet, which all of us have, is like walking around in a shopping street, right? There's no nobody knows me. There is no who's interested in me. If you walk around and you have a wallet sticking out of your back pocket, chances are you're going to be pickpocketed. It doesn't matter who you are. It's just an opportunistic thing, right? So besides all the war stories about espionage, for most of you, crime is the most important thing that you need to protect yourself from. And my colleagues from Booking have already explained to you some types of crime that happen and the ways that people try to monetize it. But there's of course also ransomware, the CFO fraud, CEO fraud. The good thing is that to protect yourself from all these types of crime, your personal behavior, I can recommend to you to do the same things, right? So that's nice. You'll thwart the criminals in different. I'm gonna tell you a story to make my point clear. I'm going to zoom in on some of the specifics of Francesco and Laura. So the story starts with this guy, and usually in an interactive session, I'll ask you if anybody knows who this guy is. And always somebody, of course, says that's Bob Dylan. At which point I will tell you that you've just shown your age. Anyway, this is Bob Dylan, and the story is about Bob Dylan and Britney Spears. And there is a lesson about cybersecurity in these two folks and what their interaction was. And I always find this a great story, even though it is already 8 years old. So 8 years ago, the following thing happened: is that Bob Dylan actually sent out this tweet. And the tweet was "Rest in peace, Britney Spears." You can see it's Christmas 2016. So almost 8 years ago exactly. So interesting story here. So what happened? Was Bob Dylan misinformed? Because obviously Britney Spears had not deceased. Was he misinformed? Did he just try to troll her for some reason? Was it a joke between them? None of this, of course. The thing is that Bob Dylan's Twitter account got hacked, quote unquote hacked. If you ask security people, the thing that happened is not really hacked. But anyway, so his account got hacked. So how does that work, right? How does that work, and why is that relevant to your behavior? So the thing that does not happen is that somebody in Kazakhstan or Uruguay sits behind his keyboard and tries 1,000,000 passwords. That doesn't work, because obviously after you tried 5 passwords and you failed, you're going to be locked out, or you're going to have to wait for half an hour to try the next one. So this is not what happened. Coincidentally, we don't know who's behind the hacker Bob Dylan's Twitter account. But what does happen, of course, is that Bob Dylan is just a human being. So Bob Dylan doesn't just have a Twitter account. Bob Dylan also has a Google account and a Facebook account, and he has an Amazon account and a Microsoft account. And if Bob Dylan were a Dutch person, he would have an account at Marktplaats and Bol.com. Maybe Bob has a Booking.com account. We probably all have the same number of accounts. Myself and all of you in this call, we can probably name 20 accounts that we all have, right? So every time you open an account with an organization, of course you're being asked to make an account with your email address, and you have to provide a password. So over time you collect all these accounts. Now the thing, this is important here, that basically it sounds like a thing that you do on the side, right? You just make an account. But actually you're placing your trust in the organization that you're making the account with. So you're putting your trust in Booking, you're putting your trust in Facebook. Booking has just told you all the things that they're doing, or even part of the things that they're doing to secure their business with you. But of course, security fails. So and people fail. So I don't know about you. I think you're all in this call, but I'm going to tell you a little secret: is that most people actually their keychain with passwords doesn't look like this, because over time you've made 10, 20, 40, 50. I have about 250 accounts that I know of, and unfortunately, most people it looks like this, right? They've got their email address and they've got one password because that's easy, or they've got a sort of password system that they use. Like they use maybe the first 3 letters of the website, and I don't know, the year that they created the account, and they make a password system. These are all bad ideas. So because every time you make an account, you place your trust in the organization that you make the account with, as I said, and this is a problem. Now, why is this a problem? This is a problem because organizations fail eventually, right? And they fail, and they may be resilient, and they might bounce back, but sometimes organizations get hacked, and credentials get leaked, or account details get leaked, right? So if Bol.com gets hacked, it will be your username, your password, and maybe your order history that is up for grabs for a criminal that managed to break in. Now, to give you a sense of the scope of this problem, because it sounds a bit theoretical, I've made this little animation. I don't know if it's going to work very well over Zoom, but hear me out. So what you're looking at here is data leaks, right? And this starts at the bottom of the screen, 2004, 5, 6, 7, and I'm going to scroll it down, and new data leaks will appear, and the bigger the bubble, the bigger the data leak, and you'll see the name of the organization and the number of records that were leaked, right? The number of accounts that were leaked. So I'm going to do my scrolling now to give you a sense of the magnitude of this problem. right? We're in 2014, and this animation doesn't even stop in 2024. It stops in 2022. This is huge, right? I'll give you a chance to look at the screen and see also the types of, these are not small shops, right? This is Facebook. It happens there. It's not because they're not doing their best. It's because it's really hard to secure a large organization. This is Microsoft. This is, if you look at the top right there, Thailand visitors, 100 million people, 100 million foreigners from a Thailand perspective that have visited the country over the last, 8 or 10 years. Their information got leaked, right? So if you visited Thailand in the last decade, your information is probably among the information that got leaked. And you see all these organizations. This is not even a complete picture, right? Because not every data leak we know about or know the extent. Usually when criminals leak, we know, but spies also get information we don't know about. So just look at this and look at the size of the problem, right? So that means every time you open an account with an organization, you're trusting them to keep your information private, and unfortunately, that is not always the case. And this is why, Francesco already said, this is why it's a really, really, really bad idea to reuse passwords. It's also a bad idea to use a password system. Why? Because you can go online tonight and download a database or a list of 8 million usernames and passwords, email address and password. I can guarantee you your email address is part of that set, right? And criminals know that too. And that's what happened in Bob Dylan's case. Bob Dylan had a LinkedIn account, as was the case in his particular situation. And LinkedIn got hacked in 2012, I believe it was. And a few million accounts were leaked, also Bob Dylan's account. So what happens is that a criminal or somebody who wanted to troll Bob Dylan looked up Bob Dylan's email address, which is public information, of course, and looked at the corresponding LinkedIn password. And he then tried the same LinkedIn password on Twitter. And because Bob Dylan reused his LinkedIn password at Twitter and had chased it in like 6 years, somebody was, managed to log in and send that tweet. And also, if you're using a password system, it's a bad idea, because if you have a set of 8 billion passwords and there's 3 of yours, it is easy to derive the system and know what your password is going to look like, right? So that's why really bad idea to use password system, and in general a really bad idea to reuse passwords. And I wanted to take the time to actually go through these steps to help you understand why, right? The fact that you have a presence on the internet means that you're walking on a busy shopping street. It's a really bad idea to reuse passwords. So basically, you've got to use good passwords, and the only rule I would give you is the longer the better, right? Minimum 12, anything longer is better. Use unpredictable passwords, so no systems, no nothing. Use each password only once, so one for Booking, one for Bol, one for Marktplaats, one for Microsoft, only once. And also make sure that even if your password gets stolen, it's useless. And this is why multi-factor authentication is so important, right? If somebody logs in from a different country, they get a 2FA challenge, right? And normally, if you log in from the same device, the same phone, you won't get challenged. So to turn it around, and what you should do, it's already been said, but I'll just repeat it. Use multi-factor authentication absolutely everywhere. Everywhere. Now, some notes there. You'll know by now that Google has an authenticator app, Microsoft has an authenticator app, and there's like a few others as well. Be aware that you only need one, right? So don't fall into the trap, I would almost say, of following the steps that Microsoft or Google or somebody else will tell you, because they'll all lead you to their own authenticator app. But if you just say, I already have one, you can scan a QR code and enter the new account into your existing authenticator app. I have actually spoken to people that were not aware, that were walking around with 6 authenticator apps. That kind of like defeats the purpose of the whole thing. And the second thing is, make a backup of the authenticator database, basically, or the emergency codes, because if you lose that, it's going to be really painful to regain access, right? So that's really important, the backups. The second one, of course, use a password manager. Password managers will just make 40 character passwords for you that are all unique. You don't need to worry about anything. You just need to protect that password manager with one password. Make a backup of the password manager file. Now, a few examples. If you have a full Apple ecosystem, you can make use of Apple Keychain. They will automatically backup in the cloud, synchronize across your phone and your laptop, so it all works seamlessly. Store them in the browser, maybe in Google Chrome. I have no problem with that. Just make sure if you log in on a public PC or laptop somewhere, that you log off after you've used it. One password is one key pass dash lane, and specifically one password dash lane are more suitable for larger organizations where you need to manage passwords of different people. I'm almost done with my talk and also with my time, I see. Now, the common question that people ask is, does it make a lot of sense to put all your passwords in one password manager? Because that sounds like a really bad idea, because it's liability then. And the quick answer is yes. If you do the risk assessment of using one password or a system in 120 or 200 different places, and keeping it in your head somewhere, that is not going to scale, versus the risk of having a local password manager or even in the cloud that you protect with a good password or even two-factor. That's possible as well. The risk of one outweighs the other. It's somewhat similar to saying, I'm gonna not wear seat belts because if I ever drive into the water, I might drown. That is true, but still the risk of another accident is bigger, so we all wear our seatbelts, right? So very quickly in the last minute or two, you might wonder, okay, but have I already been compromised? Have my credentials already leaked? Or in lead speak, have I been pwned? And that's a good question, and there is a partial answer to that question. I'm just going to show you. There's a website, the URL is on the next slide, so don't need to worry about it. There's a website you can go to that's run by a security researcher, and he collects all these dumps. So this is a partial look at reality, because not all dumps are known, but he collects all the dumps. And what you can do, I'll show you now. You go to the website, you enter your email address. This is my nerdy email address. Click on pwned, and you will either see green but probably red with, oh no, your information is present in my case 12 data breaches. You can go to step 3 to subscribe for notifications if you want to be notified immediately if a leak with your information pops up, and you can scroll down to see the information, the sets, the data dumps that your information was present in. And also interesting is that it tells you what kind of information was in there, right? So if your address got leaked, physical address, nothing much you can do about it, also not a very big deal to be honest. But of course, if credit card data gets leaked or passport data gets leaked, that's a different story. So you know that you need to act, right? So there, I'm almost done. This is my final slide in the literally last minute. I've already told you, use multi-factor authentication everywhere. Make a screenshot of this one if you need to, because it contains all the advice in once. Use a password manager. One additional thing in terms of response, I would advise you to always file a police report, and don't expect the police to arrest somebody very quickly. But one is it might be useful for insurance, and two is it does happen that 8 years down the line, your piece of information might help to a successful conviction. So always file a police report. Go to Have I Been Pwned to follow your own leaks, and Platform Veilig Ondernemen. There's a long URL there. You can actually go on an advisory conversation. You can have a conversation with them. They'll advise you on the first steps in terms of cybersecurity. And finally, that link, Digital Trust Center, is a broader sort of self-assessment tool by the Dutch government, Ministry of Economic Affairs, that will look at not only your own behavior, but also what are the technical things you need to do, or the conversation that you need to have with your IT provider. Right, I am done. I'm gonna give you 1 second to take a screenshot here, and I'll stop sharing and hand the floor back to Sydney.
Clear. Thanks. Yeah, we're a couple of minutes over time. I want to thank our guests and also our partners that have joined and taken the time out of their day to join this important webinar. I think the conversation doesn't stop here. I think we should all be vigilant and stay connected on how we deal with these kind of cases. But thanks again, everyone, for joining, and we will get back to you on the questions that were not answered via the various channels. related to Booking.com. If there's any issues specifically for your property, please connect with your account manager or via the extranet with the partner to Booking.com chat and let us know what your question is. So thanks very much, everyone, and have a good day.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.